We had a female that we thought was Patches because she acted just like Patches, coming up to the door, climbing up the screen, waiting for Chips to throw out seeds. But when she was up on our screen door, we realized she's most definitely a early pregnant female, and we're trying to figure out the right name for her. Chip said Patchette, but I was kind of thinking maybe Stitch until I remembered Lilo and Stitch. But what's something that could go with Patches? Because now we have basically the female version of Patches, who really loves cashews. And she's very lucky because look at all that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, they get the good stuff. There's like hazelnuts and cashews, all sorts of things. These are for the birds, but it's the same stuff that we give to the downstairs squirrels. Do you guys see that? Some of the first color coming up in the forest here. Tiny, tiny purple blossoms and the beautiful green shoots that they rise up from. They feel like little declarations of spring, don't they? I wonder what they would look like if you turned this into poetry. Good luck, little one. I hope that you grow up nice and strong and bloom beautifully. An angry little red squirrel. Did you guys hear him? He's sassing us out. If the sun wasn't setting, I would try to get you some more pictures of him, but he's really cute. Very many black squirrels and gray squirrels. The angry chirps of red squirrels, the songs of the birds. I saw a bunny eating birdseed under someone's bird feeder. I'm hearing songs I haven't heard all year as new birds are moving into the forest. And I think I saw, yep, the tiny little tail of a chipmunk. I think spring's finally coming. See here? You can see greenery starting to show up on the branches that has not been there for a long time. Doesn't that immediately just make such a beautiful contrast to the forest? Those little pops of bursts and declarations and poems of green are starting to come back. So I know I often go on and on and on about spring's returning, it's green again. And I worry sometimes that it comes off as ungrateful to the other joys of the year. And I know most people, probably almost everybody else, they don't probably get caught up in feeling so alive for part of the year and so not for part of the year, like I do, depending on the sun and the greenery and the way that I could go out into the forest and hear something, or go out into the forest and it's silence and sticks. And I never want to come across as ungrateful for the natural cycle of the seasons, but I am talking about it so much more lately because the last few months I've had a lot of time to reflect on what's really essential in my life, what really matters for me. And the answer is like a compass pointing at when the forest is lush and green and there's bird song and I can come find things here. And the answer is really important because I think all of us should try to listen to that compass and figure out where our abilities, where our desires, and where our hearts really all align to help us grow and evolve the most in life. I worry sometimes when people talk about seeking out the things that you love, it's coming from a place that discourages challenge, that discourages asking yourself hard questions, that discourages approaching situations that make you nervous and doing it anyway. So I always worry about that when I talk about following your heart. I feel like there's a huge, very vibrant industry around encouraging people to follow their hearts with their like credit card, or to follow their hearts by avoiding growing, I guess. So I don't want to imply those things, but I hope through my actions I can show growth and an evolution of self as I kind of look for this natural compass of where I feel I want to go. And lately, I'm so grateful for the opportunity we've had to live here in Michigan. But see, there I go again, feeling like I have to give a preface or a justification to my feelings. And I'm trying to be better about that. But lately, I've been ready to accept that living in a place that doesn't have greenery for almost half the year really makes me feel kind of muted. And I could do it. I have really gotten much better at having a vibrant indoor garden, and I have been doing much better at biking on my indoor stationary bike during the very cold winter days here. And I can do it. I can shape my environment to really help me flourish. But when I got home from our trip in December and looked around my home and felt overwhelmed by how much stuff there was in there, I began a process that I've had for the past 3 to 4 months now of asking myself, what do I really need to make me happy? And it began when I was overwhelmed with how much stuff was just in my home. And that's really interesting because if you guys look at my vlogs, like leading into Vlogmas and Vlogmas itself, I had so much stuff coming in all the time. Some of it I had been saving for months to share with you guys, but a lot of it I started impulse collecting because I was trying to fill a void. I was trying to fill a void of falling into the easily supplied answer of what could make me happy. I don't know, but this is shiny and beautiful and would support a lovely artist, or maybe offer something cool for people to be able to look at in an unboxing video, and then it was at my doorstep. And I'll talk more about my attempts to fill that void with stuff in future vlogs because it's a huge subject that I want to tackle head on. But I asked myself that question, beginning with the stuff, the physical stuff around me. What do I actually need to be happy? When I knew I had too much and I needed to pare down on stuff. And that question has bled into, or bled is the wrong word. That question has taken root in every aspect of my life. The idea of what do I actually essentially need to be happy spread like wildfire. A flourishing, amazing question that reached into first the physical things around me, and then the mental things, the digital places. I began cleaning and organizing everything in my home, everything on my computers. I started wondering, what do I need to be happy and how I spend my time? And it's a question that has reshaped my life very powerfully in the past 4 months, to the point where I don't recognize myself in December. I look at that person and I see somebody who wasn't really awake, somebody who felt muted, who felt overwhelmed, and who was trying to fill the gap between those feelings with easy void distractions, losing myself for hours on social media, trying to make other people happy in an attempt to maybe appease them and fill the hole that I felt. And that sounds dramatic, but I think we all have that void inside of us. Even when we are happy, productive people, even when we are loving our life, I do think that it's possible to still live with that void if you are not in a place where you can live your life with a sense of true alignment and purpose. And you can align and purpose yourself in life pretty much in any situation, I think. So it has more to do with like the values that you really are living by and the opportunities that you allow yourself to grow into, even if they are hard things to pursue. And that's where I'm at right now, and that's where I want to take you guys with me on this journey. I've been hinting about it and I've been trying to talk about it sideways, and it's just not working to try to sit down and go, maybe I'll have some sort of script for my life. If I had a script for my life to share with all of you, I would love to see it because it might help me figure some things out. So I will simply open up the space through these vlogs to try to share the journey of evolving and kind of answering the question about what that means while I do it. And the way it relates to spring, the way it relates to greenery in a forest in the evenings, is because I'm realizing that's when I feel the most alive. I grew up normally in a like lower income household in the Midwest, in a place that had no parks. We lived right next to the highway. It wasn't really safe to go and play outside. The only space that was big and green was a private huge golf course that had taken the forest behind our home and been built when my grandparents bought the house. And that was the only green space, but if you went onto it, then like the cops would get called and they would escort you back home. I know from experience when I was a kid. But I'm saying those things because I don't come from a place where it was normal to go outside every day into a forest. That was something you did when you go camping. That was something you did when you like had some sort of club that you might be part of, and those opportunities were not available to me growing up. We didn't have any parks that were safe to go to as children. I spent the most of my like childhood and teenage years and early adult life in places where it was not safe to walk outside, in places where, and because both my parents are disabled, they weren't ever able to take us to parks. So I'm rambling this out to explain that it's not an immediate, of course, realization that one of the things that I want and one of the things that aligns my life with true purpose is being able to be outside in places of nature every day, to admire it, to be humbled by it, to learn from it, to share it. That is one of the huge things. That is kind of the foundational natural movement that I want every day in my life. I realized walking here in the woods in the middle of winter a couple months ago, bundled up to the T's, like bundled up, hardly could see my little eyes poking out as I looked around. But it occurred to me what I really, really, really want out of life is not to be able to show up at the gym and go home and find the perfect balance between food and clocking hours on my bike and work. What I want out of my life is for the healthy physical part of it to be being able to explore in nature every day. And what I want out of my life for a sense of purpose is to be able to share those things with you guys. To be able to share this place, to be able to share the squirrels, to be able to share wherever I end up. And this is all leading up to the messy evolution of myself. Just this is the tip of the iceberg of all of the conversations, of all of the changes. But the past few months and asking myself what makes me truly happy and realizing that like a comet that is just pulled by gravitational force, just bursting through the sky, it has no choice but to follow this gravity. My heart comes to these more wild places. And I'm not a tree. I'm not a stationary tree. And if it is stick season here, why don't I go somewhere else? Right now we can't because Chips is studying for his PhD. But, and again, this is just the tip of the iceberg, but the huge fundamental pivot that our lives are beginning to look towards. But in asking myself, what do I actually need to be happy? As I stood surrounded by boxes a few months ago, We've gone from trying to talk about saving up to maybe get a small house in 2 or 3 years when he graduates his PhD, to talking about not having a home at all, to putting a few of our precious treasures in a storage unit. And Chips and I are talking about living the life of being digital nomads. And for a lot of you guys, that's probably like, well, duh, you're a YouTuber, you're supposed to do something dramatic like that, MBD. But for some of you who are older, I think you might know how big a pivot that is, and why I want to share the evolution of this. I've been reading a lot of books lately about our sense of happiness in life, how it is cultivated. Books that range from psychology to personal memoirs to simple living to the FIRE community, financially independent, retired early. I wanted to see what makes them happy. The answer turns out to be a lot of numbers, even after they retire. I've been reading books by fantastic Zen and Buddhist teachers and building my way towards an understanding of what actually makes me feel fulfilled. That's being out here listening to the birds. That's not but a handful of my treasures at home. I have already gotten rid of about 60 to 70% of the stuff that was in my house in January is now gone. And it's not gonna happen immediately, but Chips and I are beginning, especially as I have begun to watch my flock of birds begin to fade. They are all old now, and I don't know if I'll have them in another year. So our physical ties to a place are really dwindling. And I'm so excited. I've been wanting to tell you guys for so long. But it's so funny because I don't know if any of you would understand why I'm so excited to be like, I would love for a while not to even have a home, not to rent a place. Rent through Airbnb, maybe temporary rent. And then we want to go to Japan to start for a year, New Zealand, Australia, mainland China, Hong Kong, travel across the US, be able to move flexibly. That's also a big blessing between our two families as both our parents begin to really age on my parents' side. So you want to be close to them, but they live on opposite sides of the country. But instead of owning a home and having to rent, wouldn't it be nice if we could just move between the two of them, right? So we're beginning to talk about that. And it's not really coming from a place of the novelty of not having a home. It's coming from a place of wanting to follow our hearts at finding the places of beauty in this world and being able to be physically present to learn from them, to be humbled by them, to be in awe of them, and in my case, to share them, to share it, which I think is the greatest opportunity I have ever had, to take the things I love and be able to share them and hope that they offer the seeds to others to also find what they love too. So I don't know if this will actually happen, but we are in the active stages of planning for it to happen, around Chip's getting his PhD, of course. And it may change. He might get a job offer we can't turn down, but it's more important to us to be able to really feel like we have lived and we have had a chance to do something good in the world. And I don't know if I can live up to the big giant nobility of that idea, but I really think I could do something good in the world if I continue to follow what I truly love. And that's walking away from all the stuff. That's being responsible with how I live through veganism, through sharing my passion for the natural world with all of you. And that's trying to find ways to show that it can be anybody who could live these dreams out. I'm not fancy. I grew up very poor, and I just have continued to follow my heart, and it's been an amazing evolutionary journey. So I'm gonna let these people with the puppers run in the park. The sun is setting. I need to make my way back home to Chips to make sure he's not raiding that cookie jar. And we'll talk more about the peaceful, simple daily adventures of love, of life and joy, and evolving, and plants, and storytelling, and everything else that's in my heart that I hope can somehow build up into something meaningful to share with all of you next time. Oop. Hello, little friend. Hi. Oh. Hi. Have a nice night, little guy. Oh, there's two of you. What the heck? Wow. Bye.